Hello, I'm Richard Ridge for Broadway World. Carnegie Mellon University continues their mission of the arts and arts education. And this year they once again honor their CMU alumni and celebrate their individual Tony Award nominations. So please say hello to one of the world's most renowned actors who was nominated for Best Lead Actor for his electrifying performance in A Soldier's Play, Blair Underwood. Great to see you, my friend. How are you and where are you?
I am fantastic. It's great to see you again. It's so odd seeing you not on a red carpet, but you know, that's where we are now. But I'm actually in Utah, in Harriman, Utah, visiting some friends safely.
Oh, I see you've got the holidays behind you already.
Yeah, well, the Thanksgiving, you know, we got Christmas coming up, and you know, we got to see how we're going to do with that travel. But it's just, you know, every day it's just all these decisions we all have to make. Okay, what's safe? Should I do this? Should I not do that? And, you know, especially with Christmas. So at least, you know, got the Christmas tree up, feeling very Christmassy. As I was saying earlier, I'm kind of looking forward to just knocking 2020 on its ass and just say, okay, let's move on. 2021, let's get on with it.
I think we're all getting ready to do the same thing, my friend, just so you know. You know, Blair, the New York theater shut down on March 12th. You and I started to talk about this before we went on the air. You were in your final week of performances. Like, what was that day like for you, and how did you find out? You
know, I got to tell you, I feel very grateful that we were able to really do our run and minus save 2 days. So as you said, Broadway closed down Wednesday, March 12th. As it were, Thursday, the next day, the 13th, Broadway went dark. Now, we were scheduled to do our archival footage taping for the Lincoln Center. I don't know if you knew this. So we actually had a chance to come back on that Friday the 13th, ironically, and do our final show. And I'm just so grateful for that because, you know, to archive it, to save it for posterity, we were able to do that. But it was just odd. You know, the final week, you know, we had sold out houses, but you'd see pockets of just empty seats. And that's when, you know, you'd hear on the news so much that if you're elderly or past, I think, 60 years old, you shouldn't go out. Everybody was fearful and afraid and uncertain. So it was just a very odd sense of just a major paradigm shift in the universe. And it's so weird because from the stage, you feel it in the theater. I think 2 days before the Broadway shut down, they told us don't go out in the back. And I was like to sign autographs and see the audience. And they said, don't even do that. So it was just very odd. And I think the biggest indicator was when the NBA shut down. I think it was that Wednesday. And just the thought they shut down the whole NBA, and then of course it was just a domino effect. But I tell you, I feel grateful that we were able to really finish the run. We missed 2 shows as it ended up.
Yeah, how emotional was that Friday night, that special filming that you all did for Lincoln Center, and to have had that?
Yeah, it was very emotional because it was just really a sense of gratitude that we get a chance to do it. Because otherwise, that final bow, we didn't know if we were coming back or not. And you know, when you get it, you know, and you're working and you've been working so hard. It was a nice run. It was a beautiful run. But it was emotional because we had a chance to finally, you know, do a final performance. And it was not the case for everyone. So we just felt very, very grateful and thankful that we could do that.
And I love that Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts did this because now it will live on years from now. You know that it's there on film, that beautiful performance of your incredible company of A Soldier's Play.
Oh, you know, another thing, Richard, that was odd was, of course, it was an empty house. Yeah. We could have maybe 10 people in the mezzanine, and that was it. So that was just another odd element of that final performance. But we got a chance to do it. So yeah.
Blair, if you could sum up, what did being a part of A Soldier's Play mean to you both personally and professionally?
Wow. You know, it was incredibly powerful and important then, even more so now, because my mother, who's 84 years old and has multiple sclerosis for years, she passed away about a month ago. So her final hurrah, first of all, the reason I'm even in theater is because of her love and passion for music theater. She loved The Sound of Music, which was her favorite musical. But she introduced myself and my brother and sisters to Broadway and to live theater, and she was passionate about it. So her last hurrah, kind of going out and getting made up and having her hair done and getting dressed up, was opening night of A Soldier's Play. So twofold, to have my mother there, and we knew that the days may be numbered, but that she could actually make it, made that night phenomenal. Also because my father is a retired Army colonel. So a lot of I look at that performance and feel that's as a tribute to him and a bow of thanks to him for his service, but all the people that he represented and all the other African American military personnel, not just Army. Of course, our play was about the Army, but just all the African Americans and that fought for our country and continue to fight and protect our country.
How much of your dad was in your performance?
I think probably all of it. I mean, because we grew up on Army bases. I know we talked about that a little bit before. So my whole life up until 15 or 16 was all about the military and around that world. And military bases are a world unto themselves. I mean, you have they're small cities, and just the sense of being raised with the military officer, the expectations upon you as a child of a military officer, as a child of an African-American military officer in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 60s. And there's great responsibility and gravity that you carry and that you feel, because you don't want to ever embarrass your father or his rank, because there's so rare, there's so few African-American soldiers at that time, and officers especially. So I think living that, I know that entire performance was informed by the man I knew. And I think the biggest thing, just in terms of just degrees and calibrations, was just to make him human. That very first monologue, when you meet the character, oftentimes you see the officer in the hat and the glasses, which is a part of who he is. But I saw that scene, I always saw that first scene, that first monologue, as my dad in the backyard. He never smoked, but I was smoking. It's at a barbecue, just talking. He just happens to be an officer. He just happens to have a uniform on, but it was the humanity behind the uniform that I was trying to capture.
Yeah. Well, you did a stunning job, my friend, just so you know that. As everybody did. You were this like close-knit 12 male ensemble. Like, what was it like? You were a really tight-knit family during this whole process, led by your director, Kenny Leon, weren't you? The
great Kenny Leon. Absolutely. And, leadership counts. Leadership matters. And he really created a world, an environment where we could challenge each other and push each other and not be afraid to fail. You often hear that in the rehearsal hall, but he really kind of created that. And just to have these 12 guys, we bonded from the very beginning. And part of it was, again, it was the history and the storied history of a soldier's play from the 1980s, the original play with Denzel and Sam Jackson, so many in that cast that were amazing. We did not want to drop the ball because, as so many, in spite of all the success of a soldier's play over 40 years, it had never been on Broadway. So we knew people would be watching. We knew people would be paying attention, and we very much wanted to do it justice. And I know that bonded us because everybody brought their A game from day one. We're talking about David Allen, and also, the fact that David Allen Greer was in the actual play in the 80s and was in the movie A Soldier's Story. So he kind of gave us a perspective somewhat of what that experience was. But he also came in from the beginning and said, that was incredible. If you want questions, I can answer whatever, but this is our version. And this is the next iteration of this story. So let's create what is our world. So that was the jumping off place.
Because you and I had many conversations about this during rehearsals and, of course, opening night and such. I loved this play. I saw it originally. I saw the movie. I saw everybody on stage, people who went into the show. Seeing David again was so incredible for a full circle moment for him. Yeah. But the play is so relevant. It could have been written yesterday. Yeah. I mean, don't you feel the same way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's why it resonated with the audience. Because so many of the themes of outward racism, of outward perspective on the differences of us, not what bonds us, but the differences of us. And of course, the play, those who haven't seen the play, is set in the South in the 1940s. So you have that, but also the internal machinations, the internal conflict with all of these men. And you hear so much. I said this to a friend of mine just the other day about the Black community, that we're not a monolith. We don't all think alike. That's the beauty of this play that Charles Fuller put on paper and we brought on the stage, that you see these 10 different African-American men, and then you have Jerry O'Connor, you have other actors, 3 white brothers, and I think 8, whatever, my math's off, but you know what I'm saying? But it was amazing to work together, and that's all of those elements really bonded us together because it's relevant. It's very relevant. And I tell you, that speaking of Kenny creating an environment where we could create, there's a final moment at the end of the play, my final monologue, where there's this primal scream. And that came out of rehearsal. That was not in the script. And it was all of that bottled up angst inside the actor, myself, but also what the character must be feeling. Because the whole time he's reserved and he's holding back and he's trying to stay above the fray. And that moment, and so many people came back after and said, we understand that. You know, you don't have to speak, but it's just letting out that rage and that pain and that frustration, that love of your people. You know, in this particular case, because we know that it was the black man that did the crime. Spoiler alert, you know but it was a black man that did the actual crime. It's like, why are we doing this to ourselves? So it was multi-layered, but I'm so glad that you know, Kenny allowed me to try that, because I said, at the end of this play, I got to let this out somehow. So I was glad we were able to do that. But that speaks to, I think, the immediacy and the relevancy of the story.
You say that because that primal scream that you let out, we sort of let it out as an audience too, before the lights come up.
Wow. Yeah.
If you could sum up the best part of the experience of working on this, what was it for you, Blair?
Oh, what a great question. There's a lot, man. There's a lot. Yeah. Okay. Let me try to sum it up. Let me just say this. Because of my mother, my beloved mother, she taught us, she loved Christmas. So I got a Christmas tree behind me right now. My man, to do theater, to do Broadway in the midst of New York, in Times Square, in the midst of the Christmas holidays was magical. It's a beast. I mean, working 8 shows a week, it's a beast, but whatever, it's what we love to do. But to do it during the holidays in New York City was magical. Yeah. And that and everything else we talked about, the people and the individuals involved, the Roundabout Theater I have to speak to, and Todd Hames, is just they could not have been more accommodating and supportive of what we were doing and excited about what we were doing. So the work is the work, and there's frustrations, and you're pushing and you're challenging, but just to do it during that time of year in New York City, it's what I miss right now. Yeah. You know, I look at our frame right here and I see the red curtain. I just can't wait till we get back to the theater. We can sit side by side, shoulder to shoulder, and just really revel in the power of congregation again. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's going to come back bigger and better than ever. And I can only imagine for all of us that first night that we go into a theater and sit in a seat and the lights go down, it's going to be primal. Like you said, I'm sure it's going to be one of the most emotional nights.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you, well, this year, once again, CMU is honoring their Tony-nominated alumni. And I would like to congratulate you, my friend, on your Tony nomination for Best Lead Actor in a Play for your electrifying performance as Captain Richard Davenport. What does this nomination and this honor mean to you?
Ooh, oh, my God. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. It's amazing. I can't even try to be cool about it. It's exciting. It's what, listen, this is what, as an actor, it's our lane. It's our medium. You know, film and television. I love telling stories. I'm a storyteller. I love doing that. What's great about that is it lasts forever for posterity. The beauty of the theater is that we get to recreate it every night. But it is the actor's medium. Yeah. The television and film is the editor's medium, the director's medium. But when that curtain goes up, no editor is going to mess with your performance, cut your pauses in half and whatever else. So to have a chance to do this play and do it there on Broadway and for the play to get 7 nominations, and it's an honor, but it's also for all of us, because as I said, we didn't want to drop the ball, and we knew there was a high bar. But honestly, to be nominated it's an honor. People say that it is, but it's also just very exciting because it's the profession I chose, and this is what I wanted to do since childhood is the theater and tell stories. So this is one of those things you can't be nonchalant about. It's like I'm excited, and whatever happens. But just to be nominated, I'm over the moon about that.
It's like you said, 7 nominations. I mean, you look at the nominations your show received: Best Revival of a Play, Best Actor in a Play, Best Featured Actor for David Alan Grier. Talk about his full circle moment. Yeah. Scenic design, Derek McLean. Costume design by Didi Ayite. Lighting design by Alan Lee Hughes. And, Kenny Leon, Best Director. I mean,
Best Director.
It's pretty amazing, right?
David Alan Grier's 4th Tony nomination, and it's time for him to bring it home because he really, really kicked ass on it.
You know what's great? I love Kenny. I've known Kenny forever. He's one of the most brilliant directors working in this business. But he takes himself, you know, when you look at his, you look at certain directors and you'd be like, oh, they put that stamp on there. But Kenny makes it all about all of you coming together, casting the best ensemble and creating this incredible world where you take this journey. I mean, he's so brilliant at what he does.
Yeah, no, he really is. He was the first call. I mean, he called me initially and he said, you got to come do this play. And I said, well, listen, I got to read it first. I remember I'd seen the movie, of course, but, you know, you go through all the specifics of what I got to do. But just because I've respected his work for so long, and for him to call, I think he had a friend who knew my wife, and they said, Kenny Leon's trying to reach Blair. So it was like a roundabout way. And from that phone call on, it was just an electrifying, incredible experience. But it goes back to that first question. Who is that leader? How do you lead an ensemble? And how do you inspire them? Because that's the inspiration of it all is the most important thing. And I think Kenny really taps into that. How can I get the best out of each particular actor? And then,
he's the smartest man in the room.
Yeah, that's right.
Did anybody have to do push-ups? I know when you do a Kenny Leon show. All right. So those of you who know, like if someone is ever late to a rehearsal or whatever, I think someone has to do push-ups. Did anybody have to do push-ups during your rehearsal?
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is, if that person is late, we all do push-ups, not just that one person. So yeah, it was very militaristic in that sense. So no, that happened a couple of times. And I have to say, Lark Hackshaw, who was our stage manager, who I adore. Yeah. She's about what 5'4". I don't know, but she's a tough one. I love her. But something happened where something didn't happen she was supposed to do, and I think 2 actors came in late. He didn't make us do push-ups. She goes, oh, she said, well, they're forgetting their lines. Why do I got to do push-ups? I'm doing my thing. If they do push-ups, I'll do push-ups. So it became a source of fun and comedy. But yet and still, if one person was late, usually we all had to do push-ups.
That's an honor. I would love to be in a Kenny Leon room and saying it's time to do push-ups.
All right, we'll get to that. We'll get to remember that in a couple of years. We'll make sure we invite you in to do some push-ups.
Totally. You know, what have your years at CMU meant to you, both personally and professionally?
You know, CMU gave me a technique in the work, and it gave me a focus of how to get from A to Z, how to create a character. And it was tough. You know, I think part of the work of a lot of conservatories or learning to be an actor, it's a psychological journey. You know, a lot of these classes feel like therapy sessions, and learning to tap into those very real emotions, not fake emotions, but very real emotions, and bring it to the fore is what I learned at Carnegie Mellon. And by the way, just real quick, just back to Kenny, I think it's one of Kenny's fortes. His style of directing really brings out very honest and authentic performances. Very naturalistic, but for the stage, not for camera. That's a different thing. And I know it's one of the things that was his template, you know, and his threshold was, if I feel fake, if I feel it's fake, if I feel it's not real, do it again, do it again. So the beginning for me was at Carnegie Mellon, learning how to find those beats where you don't feel like a theatrical actor and you're not acting. That's a curse, I think, especially in theater. And straight plays, especially. You know, I was a musical theater major. So music theater, sometimes you can be broader and bigger and funnier and, you know, all of that. But for dramatic plays, it's just a different thing. And I really learned those. I'd like to think I learned those nuances and begin to learn and take a journey on that path at Carnegie Mellon.
I love that you're a musical theater major. Would you like to do a musical? Is there like an iconic dream role from a musical you'd like to tackle?
Let me just say this. I was a music theater major, but I am not a singer. And I am not a dancer. I can carry a tune, and I can move a little bit. You know, I was saying this last night. Have you seen Jingle Jangle, by the way? It's on Netflix. Oh yeah, I watched it last night. A group of us watched it last night, and I remember looking at the amazing Anika Noni Rose, who I adore. She killed it. Song she has that song Jingle Jangle. It's incredible. But we were doing Pearly at the LA City Center years ago, and we were doing the recording one day, and she said, and I was telling my wife, because it was the scene where Forrest Whitaker starts to sing to her. And that feeling I had when I'm singing to a phenomenal singer, I'm like, you get kind of nervous because they're amazing what they do. And I'm just, I can carry a tune. And I remember Anika said to me when we were recording, she said, you know, Blair, you're not a singer, but you're very musical. And she said, that's great. How did you learn to be the musical? Anyway, so we had a great conversation. But I remember thinking, like, she was very clear. You're not a singer. But you're musical, you can make it work.
But there are a lot of great stars that were not singers, but could convey. And I'm sure that's something you learned how to, perfect that craft at CMU.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's storytelling, right? At the end of the day, maybe you can hit a certain note and maybe you can't, but if you're conveying the internal story of the character and the external plot lines, then you can do that. And audiences kind of give you a pass if they believe what you're doing. Yeah. Whether you hit that note or not, or you even sometimes actors talk song through if you have to, and do what you do, tell the story.
Yeah, I love it. Would you talk about CMU's heritage of producing top talent both on stage and behind the scenes?
Yeah, I remember it was a woman named Audrey, who was a senior in high school, and she was the first one who told me about Carnegie Mellon. And all I knew was it's one of the best schools in the country. I graduated high school in 1982. So this was in the early 80s. She says one of the best schools in the country. And if you want to be good, you should try to get to Carnegie Mellon. I'd heard of Juilliard and some of the other conservatories. I didn't know much about Carnegie Mellon. A lot of my family lives in Ohio, like 40 minutes, Steubenville, Ohio, from Pittsburgh. So I said, well, that makes sense, that part of the country and the school itself. But a big angle on that for me was the fact that they had so many successful actors and not just actors, technicians and directors and producers that had come through that school. So to me, that made it that much more attractive because I wanted to work. I didn't want to just, I wanted to work and I wanted to be successful in the work. And I knew if I wanted to do that, I had to be at the right place. And I remember there's a young man who gave us a tour. My dad and I went to Carnegie Mellon initially, and I didn't know if I wanted to be, just in the acting program or music theater. And he said, well, listen, if you really want to work, you need to be a music theater major because that way you learn to sing, dance. It'd be a triple threat. I remember he said that. I was like, what the hell is a triple threat? I never heard that. He said, you need to learn how to sing, dance, and act. If for no other reason, it gives you more opportunities for employment. You're honing different skills. You get a chance to work. So yeah, a lot of wanting to go to Carnegie Mellon was I knew they were very tough and they had a high bar of acceptance into the program, but also they expected a great deal of the students. And I wanted to be pushed. I wanted to be challenged.
Yeah. Would you also talk a little bit about their commitment to the arts and arts education?
Yeah, well, of course, they've always had a commitment to the arts and arts education. I love the fact that they have a program with the Tony Awards, I think, for the last 5 or 6 years. And it's all about art education. It's all about highlighting teachers, dramatic teachers in the high schools. So that speaks to the early platform and foundational aspects of a career, kids that want to start in junior high school and high school, and these teachers that shape how you think, how you approach the work, how you create your work. So they're invaluable. I had the great opportunity to introduce the Carnegie Mellon Award at the Tonys about 5 or 6 years ago, and I got a chance to speak of my teacher, who I respect tremendously. Her name is Marie Manigo. And I just saw her a few weeks ago, actually. But she was my teacher in high school, Petersburg High School, and she was the one. The teachers you remember are the ones who push you, right? She was rough. She was hard on me. She said, I see something in you and I'm not going to let you skate by. I'm going to work you hard. And she did that. And I have to say there's Mrs. Warren from Michigan. I want to give her a shout out because in junior high school, she was my teacher. Then there's Angela D'Ambrosia at Carnegie Mellon, who I definitely owe a great deal to, because she was there, when I left. Well, when I left Carnegie Mellon and started working in Hollywood, every time I'd have a show or a different character, I would go to her and we would work on the character together. So yeah, there are many teachers along the way, but it's that educational focus that Carnegie Mellon respects in the high school element, but of course in the university level.
That's great. So many people were supposed to make their Broadway debuts this spring, and then the pandemic came. And I'm sure that when the theater comes back bigger and better than ever, they'll have that opportunity. Yeah. Broadway debuts are very special. You made yours as Stanley Kowalski in that brilliant production of A Streetcar Named Desire. How magical was that night? What do you remember about your opening night on Broadway?
Man, Richard, I got to tell you, I remember being a nervous wreck. Now, everybody there that night, my friends, family said after the fact, you would never know. I'm telling you what was happening inside of me. Everything was churning. It was crazy. But I tell you what calmed me down. The great, I feel like I'm name dropping, but I'm not, because he's been in my corner for years. The great Sidney Poitier had called, and he's been just a great friend and mentor over the years. And 30 minutes before the curtain went up, Maria, my assistant, comes in and she's got this big bouquet of white flowers. I said, 30 minutes before the curtain goes up. So who was that from? She goes, Mr. Portier. I said, oh my God. I said, I have to call him. I have to call him right now. So she got him on the phone and he picked up the phone. And I said, Mr. Portier, I just want to thank you. I just got your flowers. I'm literally about to go out on stage in about 30 minutes. And he just said to me, he said, you know what you're doing and you're ready. And he said, go out there, go out there and you show them the breadth and width and depth of your talents and you have fun, boy, have fun. Man, I tell you, from that moment, I was telling the story to a friend of mine years ago and he said, did that make you more nervous? I said, no, just the opposite. It freed me up. I'm like, if the man I respect as much as I do as an actor, and he's really one of the reasons I want to become an actor, watching his work. And if he had confidence in me, let those nerves go. So from that moment on, I was able to kind of be free and enjoy the night. And you're doing previews for 3 weeks prior to that. You know what you're doing. It's just that add element of the press and your friends and family. And, it's a party. It's a festive evening. So I remember that. And once I could let go, I just remember just having an amazing time and just and partying afterwards. A lot of rain. It rained a lot that night. But it didn't damper our spirits.
I'll tell you, I have goosebumps 3 times during that conversation you just told me, Mr. Poitier. That is amazing to get that call right before you go on stage. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Right before you kicked off your 7th season at LA Law, where you played attorney Jonathan Rollins, you could have gone on vacation. You could have gone to any island somewhere, but you came to New York to work at the Delacorte Theater, Shakespeare in the Park, Claudio in Measure for Measure.
Wow.
How magical was that summer for you?
You know everything.
Oh,
that's amazing to me. Well, listen, Shakespeare in the Park at the Delacorte Theater is magical. Yeah. And Ruben Santiago Hudson also was in that production, and Kevin Kline and Lisa Gay Hamilton, Andre Brower. But it was magical because, first of all, I love Shakespeare. Yeah. And to do Shakespeare under the stars in New York City, because I live in LA. I keep mentioning that because I love New York. Every time I get a chance to come back to New York, it's like a second home. But just being in New York and doing Shakespeare in the park, there's nothing else like it. And I tell you what's different and unique about that is the fact that it's free. Yeah. Broadway tickets a couple $100 a pop, but because it's free, I think it adds another element of excitement, of joy, of energy. And people are just having fun. They wait in line all day long. Usually it's in the middle of the summer. So that's what I remember. I just couldn't wait to take the stage every day. And I learned a lot from Kevin Kline. That whole, I don't know if we have time for this, but that whole naturalistic acting on stage. I remember Kevin Kline said something to me very interesting. He said, when you're doing something, you're taking pauses in between the Shakespearean lines. When we're talking, like you and I are talking, if I'm thinking, I might stop for a second and then say the words. He said, but with Shakespeare, with that language, take the pauses or make the thoughts through the lines. That way it colors the words. And I never forgot that. I never forgot. And it made such a difference in that performance. And every time I've done Shakespeare or language plays since then, think the pauses, plus very specific, often the iambic pentameter, but think it through the lines and color it. So I never forget. I learned that from Kevin Kline.
I love it. Because of your notoriety on LA Law, you have worldwide fans because of that. And many people have come to the theater because, oh my God, Blair Underwood is in a play. I've never been to a play, but I'm going to see someone I love. And you changed their life forever, because we all went through that. What does that mean to you, Blair?
Oh, it's amazing. It means the world, because theater is special. I know we keep using the word and keep coming back to magical. It is. It's fantastical. It elevates us. It's escapism. And it's an experience, and you're right. So many people, I hear that often. Like, I've never been to Broadway, or never been to the theater, much less Broadway. And to take that ride and that journey on the level of game, the level of expertise on that stage, it's incredible. So it's exciting to see an audience open up that maybe never even thought about, doing theater. And even like doing straight plays, some people think theater, they just think musicals, and a lot of like guys, also my guy friends, like, that's not my thing, man. I'm not gonna do, whatever. I said, come check it out. And oftentimes it's funny watching my guy friends that would never think about going to a play. It's like, nah, man, just come enjoy it. And they've really been taken by it 9 times out of 10, really 10 times out of 10.
I love that. We still don't know how the Tony Awards are going to happen, or the night they're going to happen, or whatever. or the date, but how excited are you for this year's Tony Awards?
I'm excited that the awards are happening.
Yeah.
You know, we need it. We need it. I remember like when I announced how grateful I was to get a Tony nomination, somebody said on my page, well, I'm not into patting, you know, self-congratulations for an industry. And I said, well, you know what? We need self-congratulations. Right now, we need something to remind us of the world we left behind and the world in which we're walking into. And there's a lot to be said for acknowledging the work and acknowledging what everybody's been, what we've been creating for that's this season. But it's much better to do that than to forget about it and dismiss it. So I think it's important, actually. I think anytime, it's what we do in the theater. We give hope, right? I just mentioned escapism, you know, to be able to escape and just have fun. And it's a subjective, the art is subjective. So what's a better performance? Who's to say? But it's fun to kind of watch us come together and actually be able to come together, even if it is virtual like this. It's important. It's important that we continue the tradition also, that you know, because I know there was conversation at the beginning that maybe we'll skip the Tonys this year. And I think that does a disservice to all of the work, you know, for what was it, 10 months? We didn't get a chance to go 12, I think it was 10 months, right? Yeah. So I'm glad it's still going on.
Well, I'm going to get all done up. I'm going to wear my tuxedo that I normally wear the night of the Tony Awards, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to like pretend that, you know, I'm there like everybody else is, and cheering you on, my friend, just so you know.
Oh, thank you. I told my family the other day, I said, you know what, for the Tonys, I'm going to wear my tuxedo, and just because I can, I'm going to just do it in my underwear. Just because. Nobody would know.
Wear the top part. Just wear the shirt, the tie, and the jacket. That's it. What you have underneath, whatever.
That's right. That's right.
Blair, my final question for you is, what are you the most thankful for this holiday season, and what are you looking forward to the most in 2021?
I'm most thankful for life and health. As I mentioned, I lost my mother on October 28th. You know, it puts everything in perspective. What's important? I've had friends who've gotten sick, you know, with COVID, and my mother did not have COVID, but I'm most thankful for that. And what I'm looking forward to in 2021 is the end of this pandemic, getting back to normal, getting back to the theater, just getting back to a normal sense of life and livelihood. Because so much is going on. You know, we see the stores, the shops, the theaters that are closed, but people are struck. Too many of us are struggling internally, you know, and emotionally and psychologically, and that's taking a toll. So I look forward to more than anything in 2021, getting back to a normal way of life, but better than where we were before.
That's beautiful. You know, you said you lost your mom to MS. I lost my mom to MS.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
So I know, sorry for you too. I know what you went through, but the point is your mom was there for you to see you return to Broadway in this triumphant piece with your dad. Like you said, you paid homage to both of them during the show, which is another, you know, incredible thing for you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that.
So listen, Blair, this has been great. It flies by really fast. I've loved talking to you over the years for everything you have done, and you're always a dream to watch. And I'm so thrilled that through all the movies and TV that you do, you always come back to the stage. You always come back to the theater.
Thank you for that, and I will always come back. It is my first love. We've talked a lot over the years, and I always appreciate your support of what I'm doing and just the Broadway community. So thank you for that.
Listen, a happy holidays to you and your family. To everybody watching, have a safe holiday. Wear a mask. Have a beautiful holiday, and we'll all see you in the new year. Happy holidays.
I can't wait. Happy holidays.